Another video diary tutorial. This is for the advanced stitch, brioche stitch. This is what it looks like when it is complete. Creates a thick mermaid braid in between, highly stretchy. This looks like a kid hat, but it fits my head and I got a lot of hair. So if it can fit over my lion's mane, it can fit over any adult size head, hopefully. This is cast on, Norwegian cast on, 72 stitches. It is the basic brioche hat for free on Ravelry. I've tried brioche in the past, could not figure it out. That was a year or two ago. So finally came back to it and got it done. So not bad for first time brioche. Completed hat. Makes that thick mermaid braid again with the standout stockinette row. And it's reversible. Self-reminder. Don't do this and watch really good shows on Netflix or Prime because you might mess up your yarn over or your purl versus knit stitch and you'll get a weird line. So make sure that it's a show that is calming and doesn't require your attention. But I'll probably pull this apart and try out a brioche cable hat, which is also a free pattern on Ravelry. Yarn being used is Whimsical Wood yarn. This is totally knit faced, and this is Basic Vanilla by Legacy Fiber Arts. The regular brioche knit without the two color, you work it the same exact way as the two color brioche, you're just not adding the contrast color. You just knit and knit and knit. You just don't add the contrast color. So cast on the amount of stitches in the pattern. This again was 72 stitches, if I did not mention that. This here is, I believe, 46 stitches, just to do my quick little diary tutorial to remind myself how to do this. Did the cast on in Norwegian style, and I knitted one round. Cast on, knit round. Now I'm ready to go. So since I'm doing two color, I'm going to drop my main color and I'm going to come in with my contrast color. Get a decent yarn tail. And I want to bring the contrast color to the front. So I'm just going to lay the tail in the back and pull contrast color to the front. Again, just like that. Okay. Try to keep my tails together and out of the way. All right, this is the setup round. Main color's in the back. I'm not using it. Every round gets its own color. The setup round, main color in back, not knitting with it, contrast colors in the front, that's what you're going to work with. contrast color is in the front, and I'm going to slip the first stitch, basically do a yarn over, and I'm going to hold it, and then I'm going to purl the next stitch and tighten this up. Okay. So what that does is you've slipped your main color, you did the yarn over hold, and then you purled the next stitch. So this will become a brioche stitch that you will work in the next round. That's why this is the setup round. You're setting up your brioche stitches. Again, repeat all the way back to the beginning of round. And this came from Simply Stitches. No, sorry, Simply Handmade from Lindsay. Self-reminder. So, repeat. Yarn in front, slip, hold, purl. Yarn in front, slip, hold, purl. And I'm not saying this the way that the directions describe it or YouTube videos show it and describe it, because it just did not click well with my brain. I had to reteach it in a way that worked for me. And saying yarn in front, slip, hold, purl worked best. I know it's a yarn over, I just don't say the yarn over part. Slip, hold, purl. Slip, hold, purl. Slip, hold, purl. Reteaching yourself so that it works best for you is not a bad thing. It's just the way that you learn. Everyone learns differently. Slip, hold, purl. Sorry for the weird squishy. I'm on my flippy and my arms are around the flippy, so it squeezes and makes that noise. Slip, hold, purl. If my hands go out of the camera, apologies. And that's what it creates. It looks like it's 3 stitches, but when you get back to the beginning of the round, it'll make sense. And we're just about there. Okay, slip, hold, purl, slip, hold, purl. I'm going to tighten before I move my pumpkin gnome. That was the last stitch, was a purl. Slide him over. Okay. Simply Serving HK. That's it. That's Lindsay's website and Instagram. Simply Serving HK. I have no idea how I forgot that. Simply Serving HK. As much as I've bought from her, I should have it memorized. Okay, That was the setup round. Now you're doing round 1. First stitch, we did the slip with the yarn in front, slipped, held, and then we went to the next stitch, which was the purl. So the setup round, you did the slip, the yarn in front, or first off what you did, you had your color, contrast color in the front, then you slipped, and then you purled. Pull this thing, it's just not tight enough. Okay. So because you did that slip and hold right here, that became the brioche stitch. You will knit this first stitch. Just knit it, both strands, both stitches together. But I did that incorrect, so do not do that. Go back to the beginning of the round. You're going to drop your contrast color and you will pick up main color. When you're done with your setup round, you will drop your contrast color, drop it, and pick up your main color. And I want them to be crisscross in the back so that I end up trapping the contrast color. Because if not, it'll just be all willy-nilly. It's nicer when it gets trapped. So drop that contrast color and then bring the main color over it. If you need to, hold these guys out of the way. Keep them kind of tight. So, round 1, the main color, you will now knit. Knitted the first brioche stitch. That's the BRK, brioche knit. This is now a single stitch, but you want to make it a brioche stitch to work on the next round. Yarn in front, slip, hold. This is a knit, knit. You're still always knitting and purling, at least for this hat, for the basic brioche. You're still knitting and purling, and you can drop this because it's now trapped in there. Again, you're going to slip that purl stitch, yarn over and hold it, and then knit this brioche knit stitch. Simplified directions, slip, hold, knit, slip, hold, knit. Slip, hold, knit. It looks like still a hot mess. You won't see the pattern for quite a while. And if the 3 stitches, your single and your brioche, look kind of jammed together, just kind of wiggle them apart. Slip, hold, knit. Slip, hold, knit. They're kind of jammed in there, so just wiggle them apart. They'll pop open, slip, hold, knit. Slip, hold, knit. Slip, hold, knit. hold knit. Okay. That was the slip hold knit. And yes, I just knitted that brioche. So now I'm going to slip and hold, and just hold it. My pumpkin gnome will help me to lock in that yarn, drop it, and drop it, hold it so it doesn't go anywhere. You can even grab the tail, and what you want is the working yarn now in motion. Okay, and I don't let my marker go because otherwise that yarn over, that hold stitch could get dropped. Okay, so now you can clearly see, hopefully, you've got this crisscross applesauce here. You got the single stitch here. So this is round 2. Color contrast comes to the front. You make your single stitches brioche stitches on every round. Again, every single stitch you will make into a brioche stitch on every round, and every brioche stitch, all these crisscrosses, you will either knit them or purl them. And when you continue making more rows, it'll be way easier to see which one you're supposed to do, either a knit or a purl with these brioche crisscross stitches, because you'll see the V for the knit and the fishtail is your purl. So single stitch right here, first stitch, you got to make it a brioche. Yarn in front. I'm going to tighten this up. Yarn in front. You're going to slip it, hold it, and we're now going to do the purl. Round 2 is the purl. Bring it in the front, just like you normally would a purl, and purl it. Again, yarn in front, slip and hold, purl. Slip, hold, purl. Slip, hold, purl. Slip, hold, purl. This is why I said don't watch anything crazy on Netflix or Prime, because if you lose your place before you have your columns, you might forget if you're supposed to be on a purl or a knit, because you can't see it. It just looks like a jumbled hot mess. Well, you can kind of see it. This would be your purls, and you can see the bump right there. But still, just a word of caution. Slip, hold, purl, slip, hold, and purl. This will be a longer video because I need to constantly remember how to do this, because I'm not going to do this pattern or this stitch that often. Slip, hold, purl, slip, hold, purl, and I can always fast forward anytime I need to during the video to get to where I want to go. Slip, hold, is a pearl. Brioche. BRP. Pull my little gnome. Tighten some things up. And by the time you get a couple more rows, you won't have to do this. This is just to make sure everything's tight. Drop contrast color and just kind of hold it. Find your working purple. Okay, you've got your color contrast out of the way, kind of holding that out of the way. Repeat row 1 again, and that's all you do is repeat 1 and 2 over and over. 1 and 2, 1 and 2. Row 1, main color, you're going to start with BRK, Brioche knit. This white is the yarn over, this is the actual stitch, this is the brioche knit stitch. Gives that X crisscross effect. You're just going to knit it. First stitch, knit it. Pop that apart because they got kind of tight. Yarn in front, it's a single stitch. Slip it, hold it, knit it. Pull it apart a little, slip it, hold it, knit it. Slip it, hold it, knit it. Slip, hold it, knit. Slip, hold, knit. Still looks a little out of sorts, but you can kind of see that's the purl section and that's the knit section. Slip, hold, don't purl, knit, slip, hold, knit. That's why I said it's easier to not think about it when you've gone further up in the rows, because then you can see it. Slip, hold. What you could do is get a stitch marker that either says P or K and place it somewhere on the round or just hook it on the stitch. That way if you do get lost, you know, if you can't clearly see it here and you put this down, you can always come back and say, which one am I on? It's facing me, I'm on the right side. Oh, I'm on K, which means knit all of these. I'm not purling yet. Slip, hold, knit, and then vice versa on the purl side. Knit. Now these yarns will start to crisscross naturally on their own, so you can move them or just gently pull them apart. Hopefully my new yarn management, whatever you call it, whatchamacallit, with rods will help with the yarn management on this one. Again, slip, hold, knit, slip, hold, knit. Hopefully the camera's not going wonky out of focus. And that was the last one. So I'm going to go back and remind myself that's a slip. And I'm going to hold. I'm going to move my pumpkin gnome. Drop the main color. And I want to crisscross basically applesauce in the back. That way it gets trapped, just like I would with color work. I want to trap this main color purple like a float in the back. Let's see, what is this? That's the tail, you don't count. There you are. That's the working yarn. That's the trapped. Trapping it right there just like I would in color work. Put my marker back on. And yes. Okay. My yarn over is still right there. And my stitch marker will keep the beginning of the round and keep that stitch kind of in place. Now, again, this is a single stitch, which needs to become a brioche stitch. To do that, yarn in front, slip, hold. You just did the knits. Now this is the purl. Purl it. Single stitch, make it a brioche stitch. Purl the brioche stitch. Slip, hold, purl. Slip the single, hold it, purl the next. Slip, hold, purl. And it still looks like a bit of a hot mess. That's okay. Slip, hold, purl. It will show itself in time. A little bit closer. Make sure this can be seen. Slip, hold, purl, slip, hold, purl, slip, hold, purl. Slip, hold, purl, slip, hold, purl, slip, hold, purl, slip, hold, purl. I believe that was the last stitch. Yep. Okay. I'm gonna move stitch marker, drop color, and hold it. did the twist. It was here where it was. I'm just going to pull it to the front. Just grab it with my little finger just to keep it in place. Working main color. Okay. Squishing my own finger. Okay. You can see it's trapped in there, just like in color work. Pull your stitches apart a little so you can see what you're doing. Get this stuff out of the way. You can see this is already crisscross applesauce, which means it's a brioche. And it's a knit. You see the V, it showed itself. This is round 1 again. Knit, yarn in front, pop those apart, yarn in front, slip, hold, knit, yarn in front, slip, hold, knit, yarn in front, slip, hold, knit. If nothing else, this can just be a relaxing little video while you knit. Slip, hold, check my stitches. You can see the knits right there. And this wide is your purl stitches. Plus you can also just see it right here. You see the purl bump, so you know just to slip it. Plus it's a single, so if you see that purl bump, you know the next one's a knit stitch anyway. It's another way to read your stitches. Yarn is getting away in the back. Just gotta pull it out of the way. Okay. Slip, hold, and knit. Tail is in the way. Slip, hold, nothing else to do. Hold it, Move your marker. Go trap the yarn you were just working with. Bring up the color contrast. First stitch is a single, make it a brioche. You can see the purl bump, purl it, slip, hold, purl, slip, hold, purl. And if you were not using two colors, this would still be purple and you'd still be going around. Same exact way. You just wouldn't be changing colors. Slip, hold, purl. If this was one color, this would be purple still, doing a slip, hold, purl. Slip, hold, purl. Slip, hold, purl. Slip, hold, purl. Don't know which is easier, two color or single color in brioche. Guess it's a matter of preference. Probably single color, because you're not having to switch back and forth, but it's easy enough to do, so either one. They're both meditative once you get in the groove of it. Slip, hold. Make sure you grab those two. Feels like the last one, purl, and it is. I think that's long enough tutorial diary just to get a refresher. Cutesy little guy. There's that tail. Yeah, once you get a couple of rows, the tails get out of the way and then you can just weave them in before you keep going, or just leave them and just let them dangle. They're just annoying to deal with. Normally I would weave these in right about now. That way I don't have to deal with this back and forth mess and then getting tangled. Weave them in and then all you have is these two guys to deal with. But yeah, you can see, turn this, there we go. You can see this fishtail in here. These are your pearls. And you can see the pearl hiding back there. That bar, that's your pearl hidden inside the fishtail, the mermaid tail, however you want to call it. And then these are your knits. That's brioche knitting. Looks like a jumbled mess from the top. Don't pay attention to that. Just pay attention to the 3D effect that it gives you. And the tails. That way you know how to read your stitches.